Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of The Standard is the Standard. We hope that you all that are watching live on YouTube, or if you stumbled upon us in podcast form, check out our interview that we did with Max Starks. Yes, the Max Starks, former left tackle, drafted in 2004 with Ben Roethlisberger, two-time Super Bowl champ. We interviewed him just a few hours ago. He gave us some great insight into the Patriots and Steelers game coming up this Sunday night. Lance, what were your thoughts on the interview before we get started?
I thought it was outstanding. Max, as always, is a pro's pro, and I thought he was able to give some hard-hitting analysis, very expertly, succinctly, and to the point. So, make sure you guys check it out. He did a breakdown. He did a prediction as well. Make sure you jump in there. I'm not going to say who he predicted.
No, don't do it.
But you got to jump into the show and check out the prediction.
So you got to tease it like the carrot.
Yes. Yes, the tease.
Now, but the good news is that there's going to be more stuff coming around at 9:45 Eastern Standard Time. We're hopefully going to be joined by a Pat's Pulpit. That's SB Nation and Vox Media's New England Patriots website. A guy named Pat Lane. Now, we did have a fella named Bo Phillips lined up. An emergency occurred, but he got us someone to fill in. Pat is going to join us to talk about this matchup from the other side of the fence. I have a feeling, I think it's a good thing, let's just put it this way, that Pat's probably not going to be able to read the live chat. I'm pretty sure that's not accessible to everybody that joins the program. So it's probably best that he doesn't read all of this stuff over there. But nonetheless, I'm anxious to hear what Patriot fans are thinking, because we know that they're an arrogant bunch. And we know that the Steelers in this scenario are a very insecure bunch.
Yeah, I mean, we're as arrogantly insecure of a fan base as you can be, because, I mean, we're still arrogant, but in this matchup, we're a tad insecure.
A tad?
Yeah, very. More than a tad. But also, Pat said that he would do some Q&A. So if you're in the live chat, I said, be prepared for some Q&A. So
we'll definitely have to screen these questions.
Hey, he's a Patriot, so he's a big boy. They're big boys now that they have 6 of those things.
That team up north, as we call them here on the program.
Yes.
So, Lance, a quick question to get things started here before Pat joins us. Everyone always says the same thing every year, and that's the Patriots look vulnerable. They look vulnerable. I will say that this year they look different. But in your experience of watching the game, and we've seen enough of this team from up north, you really think that there's any vulnerability there? Because, Gronk is gone. Edelman didn't play much in the preseason because of a broken thumb. Their offensive line is really shaken up, and that's something that Max referred to when he gave his breakdown. Defensively, they look more sound than normal, to be honest with you, but they've got some suspensions even. Their 2 tight ends, Ben Watson and Lance Kendricks, are suspended for this first week. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think this is a vulnerable team, or is it just different?
I hate to answer with a question, but I'm going to do that, which is everybody does that. They hate it, and they say, but. So let me answer the question this way. Is Tom Brady still breathing?
Last I checked, yes.
Is Bill Belichick still breathing?
Yes, I saw a pretty funny soundbite from him earlier today.
And I can't pronounce the offensive line coach's name.
Skarnecki, I believe.
Is he still breathing?
I think he is too, yeah.
Is Edelman still breathing?
Yep.
And are they still going to play in Foxborough?
Sadly, they are.
That's my answer.
I'm with Big Rush here. Big Rush, I'll put it up there. He just says, why won't Brady just retire? We've been saying this for years. When is Tom Brady just going to retire? And that's something that Ben Roethlisberger was asked today during his media availability was, do you ever think back to maybe how many Super Bowls you could have won if Tom Brady and the Patriots weren't doing their thing at the same exact time? And he answered it. He definitely kind of pushed it off and said, it is what it is. Two old guys playing football is, I think, how he put it. But he has to sit there and think, man, I would have probably had four, maybe, if you think about it.
No, he's sitting there counting all those M's, saying, "Well, I got two." And about 250, $275 million. That's what he's thinking. Thanks, Tom. You got me
Yeah.
a third contract. I mean, put it like that. I mean, quarterbacks are a pretty tight bunch, as you hear around the National Football League. And the one thing that Tom Brady has done has shown that if you keep your body together, you take care of yourself, you can play at a high level into your 40s, which means for some of these guys, 3 to 4 contracts. So they love Tom. They want to kick his butt. They hate that he's had 6 championships and has prevented some of them from winning. But the coffers are full, and they love it because he's shown the ability to play like a fine Cabernet.
Speaking of money, and you talked about the M's, um, I want to get your take on Joe Hayden's contract because I haven't talked to you really about that. And that happened earlier this week. And yes, you had predicted that wasn't going to happen, but a lot of us did. You weren't alone. I didn't realize this, but Joe Hayden will be, shoot, like $10,000 shy of being the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. I think it's 124 million to Darrell Revis. He has like 123. So it's there's some more numbers onto that that's kind of rounding up, but still like that's mind boggling. I mean, when you think of Joe Hayden, I don't necessarily think of the most lucrative contract all the time, but your thoughts on that contract and what it means for the Steelers?
Well, I think it solidifies the position for the next several years. You couple that with Nelson on the back end, it gives them a solid cornerback tandem, hopefully for the foreseeable future. I thought it was a little long in the negotiating process, but I was wrong. And it typically works like this, like it worked with Zeke Elliott. You negotiate until the 12th hour, or however the cliche is said. You negotiate until you can't negotiate. And typically at that point in time, that's when it gets all sorted out and worked out. But no, I never thought Joe Hayden would be the guy that would be within 10K of being the highest paid corner in NFL history. I mean, he's not that guy. And honestly, being a Cleveland Brown or a Cleveland clown and coming over to the Pittsburgh Steelers, you would think like as a Cleveland clown that you got all that money and they were that bad for that many years. It's just astounding. But I told you, and big up to you for giving me props on your show. Um, they're in a stretch run with Big Ben. So some of these decisions are going to be a little bit different. You can't rebuild when your quarterback, your Hall of Famer, your 2-time Super Bowl champion, is on the back half. What is it in horse racing? The stretch run? Is that what it is? In horse racing?
There's a lot of horse racing terms.
Cliches.
Yeah.
Yeah, cliches. He's the last leg lap or
There
whatever.
you
I don't
go.
know. Like,
That's one of them. That's
is
good.
that one? I'm the
Yeah.
cliche destroyer.
The
Just
cliche
know it.
killer. The
The
cliche killer.
cliche killer. So when you got Big Ben, an aging Big Ben in his last contract, you have to keep the defense sound. You have to get it better. I mean, you might pay some guys a little bit more. And I saw a tweet, and we'll have to check this. I saw a tweet out there about there are several big name guys on the Steelers who all have expiring contracts around 2021, 2022. Like there's a bunch of guys coming off the books. So it feels like at that time, that's when the Steelers will rebuild. But when you still have an elite quarterback, particularly one as old as Ben, you've got to be in go mode. And that might mean that you sign some contracts that you normally don't.
Well, I mean, you talk about Big Ben. I think the heir apparent is he's waiting in the wings now. He's just
Oh,
ready. He's just
oh,
ready.
oh, goodness. I'll believe that when you get a jersey.
Number
When
two,
when you
hey, it's funny. Did you listen to the show? Dave and I actually talked about it. What is the criteria before we get our Mason Rudolph jerseys? I said he has to play in a regular season game. He has to play well. I'm not talking about Joshua Dobbs' one throw in Baltimore and then Ben comes off the sideline. I'm talking about, if Ben's down for 2 to 3 games and he wins 2 or 3 games, then I'd be like, time to get that number 2.
How about just easy? You're making it difficult. He wins a game. How about that?
Well, Tommy Maddox won games. I want a jersey for the long haul, man.
Um. Okay. I don't know if he'll.
Here we go. We got a super chat here. Vernon gives us $1.99. We appreciate that in the tip jar. He says uh, they beat the Pats a season ago with Gronk in the lineup. I guess he's assuming they'll do it again. I don't think that it's just one guy, like you said. And I loved actually what Mike Tomlin said in his press conference this week when he said it's never been about anyone other than number 12. Period.
Absolutely.
If Tom Brady's there, you know, they're gonna be competitive. If Bill Belichick's there, like you said, they're gonna be competitive. So it's one of those situations where I don't know. I've thought about this game way too much for way too long. I just wanted to come and be over.
I'm sorry, Woody. That wasn't Gronk. That was the tight end formerly known as Gronk. That
Yeah.
wasn't Gronk last year. That was like when Prince's name was the symbol. That was Gronk last year. He was just a symbol. He was just a G. That wasn't the same player. Take a look at Woody. I challenge you. Take a look at 2017 and 2018. Look at the Gronk that came into Heinz Field, pointed at Sean Davis in the corner of the end zone, and I thought he was going to spike the football in the back of his head. That Gronk was the real Gronk when he had about 160 yards receiving and tore the Steelers up. The Gronk last year,
All in the second half too.
all in the second half, it was like, let's just stop fooling around. Let's go with the Gronk plan. Gronk left, Gronk right, Gronk. It was just Gronk, Gronk, Gronk. That guy last year was not Gronkowski. That was somebody different.
But 2017, I think it's been like it's like a PTSD. I'm not poking fun at PTSD. Okay, it's just what the term I used. You look at my gosh, it's one of those situations where the Steelers should have won that football game, even with Gronk going off, even with
Yes.
Brady lighting them up. I still can't. I've actually put this play out of my mind, and it's not the Jesse James play. It's the Juju Smith-Schuster catch and run to set up the Jesse James play. That was unfathomable that play worked and that they got that many still stings. It's still a fresh wound for me.
Wasn't there a Sean Davis drop? Wasn't there a big Sean Davis
Yes.
drop of an interception in the fourth quarter as well?
Yep.
That if he catches that pass, they probably win that game. That's why you can't put too much into one game, right? The Patriots lose to the Steelers.
Oh, I think we lost Lance for a little bit. He'll be back. He'll be back. In the meantime, I'll throw this up here. Isaac says $10. If Mason Rudolph wins a regular season game, I'll buy Jeff and Mason jersey. Isaac, I'll hold you to it. I will hold you to it. Just so you know, don't be shocked when he goes out and does the thing. All right, Lance is back. What's up, Lance? How's it going? Welcome to the
Hey,
show.
I talk bad about Mason Rudolph, so look, you know, it's that Mason Rudolph curse. Could his nickname should just be Mister. If he goes out and wins a game, his nickname should just be Mister because
Why?
his initials are MR. Just call him Mister. Mister
Nah,
too.
that's Rudy, man. They should start chanting Rudy.
Rudy. And it's funny. Me and Jeff oftentimes tweet each other back and forth, and I actually forgot about. I was like, "Who's Rudy?" Like I forgot about the movie Rudy. Like I actually forgot. Like, and
Come on, man.
I was like, "Oh yeah, Rudy. Every guy is Rudy."
Okay, so hopefully Pat's going to be joining us here shortly. If not, we'll just roll with the breakdown the way that we're going to. Let's go ahead and start a bit. Let's start it, and if Pat joins us, we'll get him on the air and we'll get started. Lance, if you were to pick one offensive player that you think is the key to victory, the one player that is the most important player, not named Ben Roethlisberger, to Steelers winning, who is that?
I would think it would be the Terminator. I think it would be James Conner. I think James Conner has to go out and run the football well, have a big game, really control the clock, really create opportunities for play action, and really dictate the physicality in the ball game. If he's running well like Jalen Samuels did last year, I think the Steelers win the game, and I think they win the game comfortably.
Okay, so you think Connor? It's tough to disagree with that because he's a guy that can have a direct impact. But I'm going to go with Juju Smith-Schuster. I think that the Patriots in the past they've kind of left it, and Max Starks alluded to this a little bit during our interview with him, where he was talking about how the Patriots oftentimes will leave their best cornerback on their number 2 and bracket the number 1. And he said if they go zone coverage on Juju, then Juju could eat that alive. I think that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to get his touches. I think he's going to have a game. He's got a lot to prove, and he's going to be super motivated. It might start off slow, but I think that it'll finish strong. I think Juju Smith-Schuster getting into a rhythm is just going to make everything else open up. And so I'm going to say Juju Smith-Schuster is that guy.
It's going to be interesting to see how the Patriots handle it, because typically what they do is they put their number 1 corner on your number 2 wide receiver, and then they double your number 1. So it's going to be interesting to see if Moncrief, assuming, looking at the depth chart from last week, that Moncrief maybe draws Gilmore and they double possibly, like you said, Juju with the zone coverage. So it'll be interesting.
Well, let me ask you this. If they decide to go 3 wides and James Washington is the third and they don't bring in like Ryan Switzer for the slot, if they go 3 wides and they do exactly what you just said, and that is they put their best on Moncrief and they double Juju, do you trust James Washington as of right now to make the plays necessary to win the game?
No doubt. I mean, what I saw in preseason, I was absolutely impressed with. So, it looks like there's been a progression to his game. And I think that, he better be able to, if you're a second round draft pick, you better be able to tear up a third corner, a third or a fourth corner. That should be a matchup that you win if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're like, okay, cool. I got my second round guy with the pedigree going against your third or fourth corner. Let's tear that guy up. That's a matchup that you have to win if you get it.
Okay, let's go to the defensive side of the ball now. We're talking about one player, and I don't have to take any player off. I think every player that could be on the defensive side of the ball could be considered one of these type of guys. So who would be your difference maker on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, a matchup that I pointed out has to be Ted Karras versus Hargrave versus the Gravedigger. I mean, the Steelers have to win that matchup. The Steelers have to dominate the interior of the Patriot offensive line. That is in a bit of disarray, and there is some shuffling. And Max alluded to it in the interview earlier today that although Scarnecchia, is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's just Scarnecchi.
Scarnecchi or Scarnecchia. Although he is an awesome offensive line coach, one of the best of all time, right up there with Alex Gibbs, that even his magic can't put the pixie dust on this offensive line in this shorter time. Andrews was a fantastic player. Hope he gets healthy, has a blood clot on the lung. But, that's a big deal in this game. And the Steelers' front 3 is vicious. The Gravedigger to it and Wreck-It Ralph, Cam Hayward. That's not a front 3 that you want to go up against in the interior offensive line if it's in disarray. So Gravedigger and those guys got to eat, and they really have to dominate Karras in that matchup.
I'm going to have to go with with Cam Kelly possibly getting the start. I'm tempted to go with him because in the back end you have to be on your P's and Q's, and that's like in Mike Tomlin's press conference, which you watched this week. He was asked about, if Tom Brady hurries things up, what are you looking for your defense? And he says, I'm looking for a call. I'm looking for our defense to adjust.
I did, yeah.
And I'm looking for them to still make adjustments because Brady's not always in the hurry up. He's just getting his team to the line and then utilizing what you're doing and trying to maximize his play versus what's on the field. And so I'm tempted to say Cam Kelly, but it always comes back to the middle. And I'm going to go with someone that might surprise you. I'm going to go with Mark Barron because I think that his speed and athleticism is going to be on display. I think that he has a lot to prove as a free agent get for the Steelers. And although I'm tempted to say Devin Bush, I don't think Devin Bush is going to see the field a ton early in this game. But if Vince Williams is getting picked on, and we mentioned this before, and I know I've talked to you off the air about it, I would expect to see Devin Bush and Mark Barron on the field together to try to maximize athleticism. And what you always say follows that question, can they stop the run when they go light? And that's something we won't know about until Sunday night, right?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think they're going to come out light just to start it and see if you can handle it. And I
So
don't
you
think
so you would say that Vince Williams is not going to start. You would put Bush on the
yes.
field. Okay.
Yes, I think they're going to go with Bush on the field. Who now correct me if is it the green dot on the defensive helmet?
Yeah.
It's the green dot. I wonder who's going to be the green dot. Is it going to be Bush and
I
Vince Williams?
I believe it would be Bush and Williams possibly, so that you always have one of the two on the field to make the
Right.
calls. I could be wrong. Barron could get one. I'm not sure.
Right. One of the things that stood out to me statistically and in watching the game is the Patriots ran it pretty well. Both teams, in fact, ran it very well in the matchup last year. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Steelers, will play that poker game. Will they give up a little bit in the run to keep flexible guys that can run and cover? It's going to be interesting. Like, what are they going to do when the Patriots go 21 personnel? Two running backs, one tight end, and they're heavy. Are the Steelers going to stay committed to playing sub package football, or will they bring Vince Williams in now with no Gronk as that tight end and their tight ends being in disarray? Maybe the Steelers can get away with bringing Vince on the field when they go 21 because there isn't a Gronk that can beat you or really attack one of your linebackers.
And to me, when I think about the Patriots game, which seems to be a yearly thing for the Steelers now, to me, it always comes down to making the play. You brought up Sean Davis in 2017. Yeah, Vince Williams, I think, has more interceptions against Tom Brady than almost anyone else on the Steelers right now. But it's one of those situations where if they make a mistake, you have to capitalize on it. So go back to last season, 2018. Think to yourself, what if Joe Hayden would have dropped that interception?
They lose.
They lose, and that's what happened in 2017. Brady is not a perfect player. No one is perfect. Everyone's going to put the ball at risk. Everyone's going to try to force their hand, and he will try to force throws. And if he does, the Steelers have to capitalize, and they have to get their hands on the football and not just knock it down, but take it away. Momentum swings are huge. But here's a question from the live chat that got me thinking, and I wanted to ask you about this. It said, it's basically, how do you feel about Steven Nelson will perform against the Patriots? And I started thinking, people were talking about Sony Michel, people were talking about James White and Tom Brady, of course. No one's talking about the fact that they still have a wide receiving core now that is, let's talk about it, Josh Gordon, Julian Edelman, and Demaryius Thomas. Lance, defensively from a secondary standpoint, is this something the Steelers can contain?
I think so. I mean, I think they played fairly well against Josh Gordon last year. He didn't go off on them. But speaking of Nelson, one concern I have with Nelson is his size and him playing against big wide receivers. I watched the Chargers versus Chiefs games last night. Why, I don't know. But I think it served me well because he struggled against Mike Williams in that game. And Mike Williams is a big physical wide receiver with a body type similar to a Demaryius Thomas and similar to a Josh Gordon. Really big, physical, fast wide receiver. And Nelson had its issues. It's going to be a definite challenge. I mean, if there's one player on the Patriots offense that I think athletically and talent wise can wreck your game, it's Josh Gordon. And that's why how the Steelers can handle the Patriots running game in sub packages is so important. Because if you can handle it in nickel and or dime, you can allocate extra resources to one of those outside threats to, in fact, neutralize it. If Gordon is going off, maybe you roll coverage to Gordon, you handle the running game. It's just about how well can they hold up, in my opinion. The big thing in this game is against Sony Michel in that running game in sub packages.
It's going to be an interesting chess match, and the more and more I think about it, the more and more I tend to think that this might be a lower scoring game. I'm not sure what the over under is. If anyone in the live chat knows what the over under is on this upcoming Sunday night game, let me know. I know the last line that I've seen has been the Steelers getting 5.5. So the Patriots are favored by 5.5. Some books have a 6.5 spread, which is, I think that's pretty hefty for this contest in week 1. But I am curious about the over-under. So if anyone knows the over-under, shoot it in the live chat, and we'll talk about that. Okay. I don't want to do our predictions yet. Lance, when you just real quick off the top of your head, think when you think about this game, like what comes to mind? Like what are you thinking? Oh, Dave Schofield's chiming in 49.5. Oh gosh, Vegas is good, man. Vegas is so freaking good.
You know, when I think of this game, man, it scares me because I think the Steelers are really live in this game, and it scares me that I think they're so live against Tom Brady. Like it's I mean, Tom Brady has beaten us so bad, or beaten the Steelers so bad that you just you think about butt whoopings that they gave the Steelers years ago, and they just kind of never get out of your mind. But the Steelers have pretty much outplayed them for the last 8 quarters. I mean, if not for one of your more egregiously bad calls, um, they win the game in 2017. They won the game last year. Are the Steelers better? It's hard for me to say that because I have in my memory banks all these bad losses that they've had to number 12 and Tom Brady. And Jeff, I got a message from Pat. Pat says uh, he'll be ready shortly. So
All right, good.
hopefully we can get Pat on.
All right.
So yeah, it's all that Patriot abuse and hearing my brother, big Pats fan, abuse me for years that I just, even when I think the Steelers are better, I'm uncomfortable saying it.
Okay, let's do a little exercise while we wait for Pat. Okay, I want you to finish the sentence. All right.
Okay.
If the game comes down to a Chris Boswell field goal to win it, I will be blank.
Nervous.
Okay, here we go. Let's hear. I keep on thinking everything will be nervous if Tom Brady has won. How nervous were you in 2018 when they had the football to end the game and Tom Brady had what 3 throws into the end zone to finish it out? I was nervous as heck.
I wasn't nervous at all.
No, you liar. You're a liar.
I wasn't because Gronk was limited. I knew they couldn't get it to Gronk, so I wasn't nervous. No Gronk heroics.
Okay, here we go. Julian Edelman will have a blank performance Sunday night.
Average.
What do you think his stat line will be?
I'm going to go with about 11 targets, 7 catches, 80 some odd yards, and a touchdown.
Okay, here we go. We're going to continue the exercise. Ben Roethlisberger will finish with blank touchdowns.
2.
To follow that up, Ben Roethlisberger will finish with blank interceptions.
2.
Oh, even. All right, James Conner will have blank touchdowns.
1.
1. So Ben throws 2, and James Conner runs in 1. So you have 3 scores there. Oh man. Okay, I don't want to get into our predictions yet. I'm tempted to ask you, but I honestly, for all the listeners out there, like I don't know. He doesn't. I don't even know if you know who you're picking.
I do know who I'm picking.
But you were on the fence. You could have gone
Yes,
either way. I don't know.
I am right on the fence. Like absolutely. I am on the Mendoza line. I am absolutely on the fence. And as I'm thinking about it, talking to you guys, my prediction is kind of going, kind of back and forth. How do you want to do it when Pat comes on? You want to just open up Pat to Q&A?
Well, let's run through our questions with him first, and
Okay,
then we'll
do
have some
that.
questions for him. And then one last exercise here, and that is the Steelers defense will create blank turnovers.
1.
Okay, so according to you, you said Ben would throw 1 pick?
2.
2. So they would be -1 on the ratio.
Yes.
That sucks. Okay. I'm gonna go with maybe this is a clean performance. I don't think Brady throws a pick. I gotta think Ben probably throws one. That's just the nature of the beast, I guess. But
forcing the ball or something.
yeah.
He throws one. Yeah, I think I shocked you with some of my answers.
Yeah, a little bit. Ben's so tough to gauge anymore at this stage of his career. He could have a game. I could see him going into this game and throwing for close to 400 and lighting it up. I really could. I honestly could. But I could also see him throwing for 250 and throwing 3 interceptions and only 1 touchdown.
He could be road Ben.
Exactly. He's just very inconsistent. And so it's tough to gauge. Maybe this year will be different, though. Maybe he won't be as inconsistent. Maybe the, change of.
I think one thing is first games of the year are usually a mixed bag when it comes to execution on both parts. Teams aren't really in good shape. Your starters haven't played 4 quarters. It's kind of a mixed bag in the first week. You don't really see really good football, in my estimation, till about week 3, week 4. Once teams are getting into it, because most teams don't hit. You have limited practice time and so on and so forth because of the rules. It's spotty. That's why I think at some point in time there'll be a special teams play. I think that'll be big in this game. I could see something like that because teams are really inconsistent early in the year. I would imagine that this is the type of game where we may see some really bad PI call because the officials are going to be really, how the officials are weird with the new rules when they first get started. So I could see something weird like this. I think this is going to be a weird game. I think this game is going to be not indicative of what these teams will be at all. I think it'll just be kind of a weird first game of the year funny type game.
Okay, give me one player on offense or defense. I'll take offense if you want to do defense, doesn't matter. Okay. That no one's really talking about, but could have a really big impact in this game in one way, shape, or form.
Well, my answer, people aren't talking about. I think he's pretty much gone under the radar, but he might be the Steelers' best defensive player, and that's T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt tore up Marcus Cannon last year.
They haven't been talking about him. No one's talking about T.J. Watt.
T.J. Watt tore up Marcus Cannon last year. It was so bad last year. They flipped him. So he was normally playing left tackle. They flipped him to right tackle. I don't know if that was because of an injury during the game, but they flipped him to right tackle. I don't know if it was trying to get away from Watt or not, but Watt did something that you rarely see against Tom Brady, is a outside linebacker, is outside pressure getting to Tom Brady. He was really getting after Cannon last year. And so I think he's a guy that could really have a big impact on this game.
Mine is, and you're right, no one is talking about TJ Watt, and I don't know why. This guy,
because he's good. Like,
yeah, but
his standard of excellence is there. They're just like TJ is TJ.
Everyone's, I guess, talking about Bush and Barron and Williams and Hargrave, but no one's really talking about it. You're right. I'm going to go on offense with, if this player is healthy, because I'm not sure if he's fully healthy, it's a rookie, believe it or not. I think Deontay Johnson could be the Steelers' secret weapon on offense.
He's going to get a hat?
I think he will. I think he will get a hat. I think he'll get a hat because they're only keeping 5 wide receivers on the roster.
Right.
And so I definitely think that it's a situation where he could see the field, and I could be wrong. With my luck, he won't even be active, period. So you have that situation here. All right. It looks like Pat has joined us. Let me bring him into the conversation here. Pat, welcome to the show. My name's Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. You're joined with Lance Williams, my co-host. How are you this evening?
Pretty good, guys. Pretty good. Thanks for waiting for me. I appreciate it. I had a softball game tonight to mash a few homers tonight. That's the way it goes.
Hey, you got to hit dinger. You got to hit dingers, man. I know what that's about. I play softball too.
He went 0 for 3.
Oh no! Wait a second now. I will say I didn't hit any home runs, although I did hit one off the high off the wall. But I did go 3 for 3 with a few ribs. So
he's a Patriot guy. We had to pull him back just a touch. we knew it wasn't. He said I'm hitting ding. Okay, all right, 3 for 3. 3 singles.
Okay. Okay, Pat. So welcome to the show. The
Thanks
show's
for
called
having me.
the Standard is the Standard, which is a very Mike Tomlin term that he uses a myriad of times every press conference. And we want to ask you some questions
Sure.
about the Patriot fan base and what the Patriots are, you know, we want to get the Patriots viewpoint basically. And so just so you know, we are live on YouTube right now. So we have our live chat that's going crazy. We have over 200 people right now in the live chat watching. And so we do want to offer, they might be asking some questions at the end, but we have a couple questions first. I'm going to start first, Lance. And so here's when the Steelers have the football, what do you think the Patriots' defensive approach is going to be to try to slow down Ben Roethlisberger, James Conner, et cetera, Juju Smith-Schuster?
I think Juju's the biggest concern. I mean, obviously Connor, proved that he could play well last year, but Juju just overall, since he's been in the league has been dominant. And now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens without Antonio Brown, because as dominant as he was, Brown was getting double teamed on every single play. So now can Juju, beat man coverage, which I think he can. I think he proved that enough, but can he beat that, being the number one guy? And I think for the Patriots, though, as good as Connor is, I think the big thing for them is that they're going to be focused on stopping the pass game, because the Steelers at the end of the day are a passing team. Roethlisberger is a passing quarterback. They're not there to hand the ball off.
Do you think that will still hold true given the fact that Samuels played very well against them last year? And typically, I think, we've seen Bill Belichick do the strategy of putting Gilmore in at number 2 and doubling, the number 1. Do you think that will happen in this game? And how do you think they'll shore up the issue with the run game because of the Steelers' success from last year's game?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think the Patriots front 7, I guess, well, there's not even 7, it's 14, based on the active roster, is incredibly deep and better than it was last year, to be honest with you. So I think they'll have, better shot at stopping the run. If they really want to commit to it, they have Juwan Bentley healthy. They have Landon Roberts, and Hightower's obviously in there as well. And so, and I think Danny Shelton dropped a few pounds this year. He's looking better. You add Lawrence Guy and Michael Bennett to the mix. So, like, the Patriots defensive front, I think the Patriots have, if not the best defense in the league, a top 5 defense in the league. And they're going to be tough to stop no matter what. Their secondary is fantastic. And their front, like I said, 14 is super deep. I think they're going to look similar to what the Eagles looked like a few years back when they won the Super Bowl, where they're just rotating guys in and out because they got so many bodies up front that they can just throw people at you. And listen, if I'm the Steelers, if it's me calling the game plan as the offense of the Steelers, I'm running the ball, because if the Patriots can't stop the run, I'm just going to keep running and running and running. And honestly, what you saw from their secondary last year, there's not a lot of wiggle room there. So for me, if I'm going to win the game, it's going to be controlling the ball and trying to take advantage of that stuff, just like you said, from last season.
Now you're speaking purely as a fan here and as someone that covers the team, but who's the one player on the Steelers offense? Because it used to always be either Brown or Bell. Who's the one player on the Steelers offense that kind of strikes fear in that Patriots defense? You're like, oh man, this guy could really get us if he gets going.
Well, I think Juju's got to be that guy. I mean, he has to be, because the guy is just, I mean, you could see what he did, was it last year or 2 years ago when he caught the pass, it was 2 years ago at the end of the game where he caught the pass and went, 80 yards down the field, and obviously Roethlisberger ends up throwing the interception, but like, he can do that to you on every single play. And so you have to be aware of what he's doing every time. And yes, Connor, I think, is a very good back. I like him a lot, but he doesn't have the home run ability that Juju does. If you guy falls down, you miss a coverage on one play, Juju could hit you for a touchdown, no matter where you are on the field.
If there's a guy that surprises you with how effective they are in Sunday's game, who do you think it would be from the Steelers' perspective?
I think James Washington is an interesting candidate for that. I think that if Moncrief is truly the number 2 and he's going to be rolled out as the number 2, I don't know if the Patriots are really going to put Stephon Gilmore on Dante Moncrief. I mean, but if they do, and you're talking about, Jonathan Jones covering James Washington, he's got that blazing speed. I think he could be a guy where if they hit 1 or 2 over the top, he could be a guy who has a few catches for, 120 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that. That could be the guy that, is kind of that third option on the pass, really even maybe fourth option if you want to call Conn to the third option on the passing attack, that could really hurt the Patriots with his deep speed.
Let's flip the switch a little bit. Let's talk about the Patriots offense. And on paper, you got Brady, you got a heck of a duo running back in White and Michelle. Now you got Demaryius Thomas, Josh Gordon, Edelman. I mean, that's a pretty formidable trio of receivers there. What about this offensive line? It seemed like, the very unpatriot-like, making a lot of trades, hadn't to put in a guy, Andrews was the name, I believe, had to go on to IR. What are your thoughts on protecting Tom Brady? Now, Lance is under the impression that he thinks the Patriots are going to try to run the football and protect Brady that way. But is the offensive line a patchwork thing? It's going to take some time, or do you think they're good to go?
Well, the Andrews situation obviously is an unfortunate thing. He had blood clots in his lungs, and so he had to go on IR for the year. So that's going to hurt them because he's one of their best players. You look at what the three of them inside, and when I say the three of them, I mean Shaq Mason, Joe Thuney, and Andrews inside did to Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh in the Super Bowl. I mean, they completely shut them down all game long. And so you look at those three as being rock solid. Now Ted Karras is the backup. He's been here for a while. He knows what he's doing. He's pretty capable. But if I'm the Steelers, I'm going right in that A gap, and I'm testing him early, and I'm testing him often, and I'm seeing it, what he has, because especially where you're talking about now, you have a new center that is calling out. You got to remember the center is the quarterback of the offensive line. He's calling out the protection. He's shifting right or shifting left or whatever it is that they're doing. And so I want to try to confuse him as much as I can, because here's a guy who naturally is a guard and is shifting over to center and has played center before. But you're talking about live bullets flying and a pretty good defense with the Steelers is certainly as far as rushing the passer is concerned. And so I think that I would test the A gap a lot. And, Isaiah Wynn is the left tackle, and you look at Isaiah Wynn and say, I don't really know what we have. He looks good. He looked good in the preseason. He looked good in training camp, but he's never been out there for an actual game. This will be his first actual NFL regular season game. And so, that's going to be a challenge for him, especially going up against a guy like Watt. Now, Watt might be on the other side, obviously, against Cannon, but, I just think there's definitely a lot of question marks. I think that's the biggest question mark. This Patriots team is built to run the ball. They want to run the ball. They have Sony Michel. They drafted Damian Harris. They have Devlin in the backfield. Like they want to run the ball. They're going to come out running a lot, I think. But at the same time, that's what I would do if I were the Steelers. Just pound that A gap and send guys off the edge and test Wynn too.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that, from the Steeler perspective, I think you want to see how Karras holds up, not with doing anything exotic. Can he handle Hargrave? Can he handle Hayward? Just straight up. Can he play them straight up? Can they win? But I think you're right that I think you'll see the Steelers run a lot of line games, twist stunts, all types of stuff to really get after him. Now, you were talking about Isaiah Wynn. Now, I know in last year's game, Cannon played a lot against TJ Watt. Have they flip-flopped that where Cannon is now the right tackle?
No, I believe Cannon played right tackle last year too. So Cannon's still the right tackle.
But I know he matched up a lot with TJ Watt in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the Steelers get that matchup there, or they flip-flop Dupree or whatever to try to get Watt on Cannon? Because I thought Cannon had some issues in that game against TJ Watt. Yeah,
and so they might. And so, I mean, that's Cannon was talking a little bit about that today, about how, he struggled a little bit against Watt last year and how good of a player Watt is. And so I would anticipate them going after Cannon. But again, I just look at it and say, all right, Cannon's been here. He knows what he's doing. It's his first game ever. And you're talking about, a very good defensive end in TJ Watt. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see them, do a little bit, and maybe, not every play, send him over there to the defensive right, but, send him over there a little bit and see what Wynn's got.
Go ahead, Lance. Do you have another question?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. This is not football related.
Sure.
Okay. The Patriots and the Steelers, it's almost more of a fan base thing than it is an actual team thing.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of mutual respect between guys like Roethlisberger and Brady. But man, these fan bases hate each other. And we were talking before you came on the air that, excuse me, the Steeler fans are extremely insecure when talking about the Patriots. We're a confident bunch.
Yeah.
But unless we're playing the team up north, as we call you guys.
Right.
What is the Patriot fan perspective of the Steelers as a team and the Steelers fan base? Because it's the other side of the coin. We're insecure about the Patriots because we haven't won in Foxborough since 2008.
Right.
What's the Patriots' view of the Steelers?
Can I interject before you answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
my brother is a Patriot fan.
Okay.
Right? and he deems Heinz Field Foxborough South. That's his perspective of the Steelers. So I just want to throw that in before you gave your answer, but it's Foxborough South for him.
I was gonna say something similar, man. I'll be honest. When they went in there last year, I was like, it's the Steelers. They're gonna crush the Steelers because they always crush the Steelers when they play them. It's just something about, and I don't know what it is because I respect the Steelers. I know they're a good team. They're a good franchise. It's gonna feel awfully good to drop that 6 banner on their face on Sunday night. But like it is one of those things though that I just feel like for whatever reason the Patriots have had their number, and I don't know. At a certain point, you wonder if that like mentally just gets to you as a player where you're just like, we just can't beat this damn team. And, last year, obviously they got off the schneid and won. And so you wonder, how much that does for the Steelers where they look at it and say, hey, man, like we were able to beat them finally. And, we get off it a little bit. And now, not that they were scared to come in and play the Patriots, but like now they're just like, hey, whatever, it's just another team. Like, we can win and we can do this. And I think they'll have all the motivation in the world, obviously defending champs, but then, they get scheduled to be there when the 6 banner drops and it's like, come on. And to be honest with you, when the schedule came out, I was kind of like, man, like the Steelers, we got to play the Steelers. Like that's stupid. We play the Steelers 100 times. Like we've seen them a million times. Like let's do something interesting for the first game. And then I was like, oh, right. The 6 banner, that'll be nice. So it's like one of those, yeah, I think for us, like we look at it and we're like, listen, you guys are the old heads in the game. Like you've been there, you've done it, you got the 6 rings, you've had them forever, and we're just like we're knocking on the door for years, like just trying to get over that hump. And I think the biggest thing that it comes with the Patriots is that you remember 0-1 in the AFC Championship game, you remember the 0-4 AFC Championship game, you remember the 2016 AFC Championship game. And so it's like you remember those games and you're like, man, like it's great. I love seeing the Steelers in town. And so, I know they're a good team. I know that, that they have the ability to beat us every game, but I still feel like, the Patriots have their number until they prove me wrong,
It's interesting that you say as a Patriots fan that you actually thought that the Steelers could beat you every single time that you guys played. Because as a Steeler fan, I felt the opposite. I felt the exact opposite. I felt like, oh, that's an L. Like me and Jeff would just go through the schedule. Oh, Patriots lost.
Right. I didn't say that.
Jeff didn't. I just guaranteed like loss. I just, as a Steeler fan, got beaten into submission. Like, look, man, hey, that's an L. We're never going to go 16-0 anyway. It doesn't matter if we win every game. I've talked myself into it's just another game.
Right.
Whatever. So I'm used to just predicting that the Steelers will lose to the Patriots. So it's interesting to hear from the other side of the fence that you guys actually thought that Brady could possibly lose.
Now don't take my word for everyone's word. I am known. I'm not an optimist. I'm a pessimist. Like I just always am. I'm always I have season tickets to the Patriots, and my dad just gets so mad because I'm always like, this guy sucks. Like they're gonna lose. Like, oh my god, I'm just always like every time I'm super pessimistic about everything. I'm always like nervous to, I never want to feel like okay. Like that's the biggest worry that I have about this season is that I'm not worried at all, and I'm like something's wrong. I'm not worried. Like I feel like they're gonna be good. So something has to be wrong. It's one of those weird things for me. So don't take my word for it, but I just do feel like the Steelers are a good team. Like they play well every year, but when they come against the Patriots, man, there's just something that happens to Roethlisberger. He just doesn't do it as much.
I feel like the Steelers in this game are playing with house money.
Yeah.
I don't think many people were expecting them to win. You're on the road, Sunday Night Football. They're dropping the 6 banner like you mentioned. I think if there's ever a time for the Steelers to play completely loose and kind of free, it's this game. And if I were a Patriots fan, that would be like, I don't know. No one's expecting them to win this game. But let's get down to brass tacks here. We want to know your prediction. And we don't promote gambling. But I'd be curious. For those with gambling problems, please contact gambling, whatever. So we want to know. I would like to know what your prediction is for the game. you can tell us your outcome if you want, like how
I
it
got you.
happens.
Yeah.
The spread that we're going to use is 5.5 was the latest that I saw. Patriots giving 5.5 with an over under of 49.5.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you're mentally prepared for all that.
No, I got you. Yeah.
Okay. So what is your prediction for this
He
game?
sounds like he has the wagers.
Yeah.
He sounds real confident. He's like, yeah, I got you. I got all that. Yeah, I got all that.
One thing you got to know now. First of all, before I do say that, you say that the Steelers will be playing loose. I would imagine, and I don't know how you feel about it as a fan, but I would imagine as a player, they must be so loose, knowing they don't have to deal with friggin' Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell anymore this year. Like that's just a huge weight off the show. And it's so funny because I feel like a normal team, when you lose arguably two of the best skill position players in the NFL, you'd be like, oh crap, they're screwed. And I look at the Steelers, I'm like, oh, they're probably going to be better this year than they were last year because those two schmucks are gone. So it's just it's an interesting situation you guys are in there. So
yeah.
But on to the prediction. I am the biggest mush on the face of the planet. I am like the absolute mush of mushes. If I bet a game, it will automatically go against it. If I intentionally bet against the way I want it to go, the universe will know that I'm intentionally betting on the way I want it to go, and so then it will go the other way, and I'll win the bet, and the outcome won't happen. So I'm the worst gambler on the face of the planet. But I will say the 5.5 points. I think the Patriots probably cover that, in my opinion. And if I had to pick an over under, I'd probably say over. I mean, what's that, 25 points each? Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see it something like 27-20 or something like that. Oh, that's not enough. But I'd probably say, like, see what I mean? I'd probably say like 30-24 or something like that. 30-20, somewhere around there, somewhere around that range makes sense. 31-24, somewhere around there. I think the Steelers will still score, but not. It's not going to be a 10-3 game.
Jeff. Pat is my spirit. Pat is my spirit animal.
I was gonna say it's like I'm talking to another Lance Williams.
Like we're the same. Like I'm. See, like our nickname on the show is Joy and Pain. Jeff is joy. I'm pain. I'm pessimistic. Jeff is always optimistic. So typically, when I pick the Steelers to win, everybody is like, "Oh no, please don't pick them to win because that means they're going to lose." So we're spirit animals. So do I have to give my? I'm still on the fence, Jeff. Just give your prediction, Jeff. I'm on the fence.
Okay. I think first thing I think the Steelers. I don't think the Patriots cover. Okay.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a close game. I do, and it might be a back end cover. So
right.
think about back in what was it 2017. No, what was the year that it's 2015? But they opened up the season in the same situation, wasn't it? So they dropped the banner. Pittsburgh came up. Le'Veon Bell was suspended. D'Angelo Williams was running back.
Right. Yep.
They scored a last-second touchdown to make the final score 28-21. Wasn't even close, but the final score, if you just go back and look at the log, it looks close. Yeah. So it might be a back-end cover, but I think that the Steelers keep it close enough that they stay within 5.5. But I don't think it's going to matter because I think the Steelers are going to actually shock a lot of people in this game. I don't think they're going to go over the 49.5, though. I think this is going to be more of a defensive game. I'm listening to what you're saying about the Patriots defense. I think the Steelers defense is going to be much improved this year, faster, more athletic, more versatile than they have been in the past, especially with Devin Bush and Mark Barron on the inside. I think that the final score for me is going to be I'm going to go with, this is going to sound really bad, but something like 24-20. Like something that's around 20s. Now that's obviously 44. That's under. So I'm sticking with the under. Not ridiculously. We're not talking about the Super Bowl last year in terms of low scoring, but just in general, I think it's gonna be low scoring. Lance, are you ready for yours? I think that's what I'm
ready. I'm ready.
Fire away.
Well, true to form, I'm picking the Patriots to win.
Yes. Everyone's giving a collective fist bump right now across.
And I'm picking a low scoring game. I think the Patriots win in a late field goal, 24-21. I think it's a case where it's tied up late. Tom Brady does his magic. They score the field goal. They get out of there 24-21. I think these teams defensively match up pretty well against both offenses. I think the game may look a little bit like last year, where the only difference would be I think some of the Patriot play, they make some of the plays on third down, some of the drops that they had on third down last year, and they may score some more points as a result. But I think the game looks a little bit like last year. I mean, one of the concerns I have for the Steelers is that secondary played outstanding against the Steelers last year. They got hit on a couple plays by AB, but largely they played very well. Patriots are very good on the back end. Patriots got some pressure. Van Noy, those guys got pressure, a little bit of pressure. I think it's going to be a defensive game. I think the Steelers' speed and versatility on defense will show up. It's early. The offensive line is sort of in, not where it will be for the Patriots later in the season, which makes the game close. And so I like the Patriots to win 24-21.
Ugh, you make me sick. Okay, Pat, you cool for a couple questions here?
Sure, let's do it.
Now, in the live chat, I made sure I put legitimate questions in all caps. So we actually do have some.
Okay.
Here we go.
Before we do it, let me just I'm going to tilt this down a little bit so you can see my amazing dopeness of a shit. Since we're live, I mean, you know what I mean?
Live.
Like, we got a little Patriots feel to it.
There
you know what I mean?
All I got to say is hopefully I just pray everyone's listening in audio form. So, all right, here's a question from The Truth. Pat, what rookie player for the Patriots will have the biggest impact this Sunday?
Well, it won't be N'Keal Harry. I can tell you that much.
Yes.
I would say probably Joejuan Williams if I had to pick just one. I just think that Joejuan Williams will have an impact on this team. Now, you saw him. Well, maybe you didn't see him, but in the preseason, he played a lot outside. He's going to be playing a lot inside, I think, against those bigger slot receivers or against tight ends. I think that you'll see him make an impact. The other kind of sleeper there is Chase Winovich, too. He's going to maybe be in on some of those passing downs. So I wouldn't be surprised to see either of those two guys make an impact.
All right, very good. Next question from Nightwolf. Who do you feel is more important to the Patriots, Brady or Belichick?
Oh, that's such a good question. Such a good question. And look, here's the deal, right? It's very simple. Neither of them would be as good as they are without the other. But the fact is that Belichick is the number one. Belichick's 1A, Brady's 1B. And it has to be the case. And the only reason why is because Brady plays one position. And if you look at what Belichick's been able to do with the players that he has, and it's just, I mean, like, he's churned guys that are known. They routinely, more than anyone else in the league, I would say, have the undrafted guys that come in and play really well. And there's got to be a reason for that. And I think the reason is the coaching. And so obviously, would he have as many rings without Brady? No, of course not. But I think they would still have a few rings. Now, I feel the same way about Brady. If Brady played somewhere else, would he still have a few rings? Yeah, probably. But he certainly wouldn't have 6, and neither would Bill. And so I think they both are relying on each other. But I just think for me personally, the most important guy there is Belichick, because without Brady, Belichick can still build a team. If you look at what, I just look around the rest of the league at, guys like Peyton Manning and guys like Aaron Rodgers, like without a good GM and coach, they're fine, but they're not that great. And so, even a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, like he's got a few rings, but without that consistently great coaching and great GM, it's like it's hard to win. And so I think, to me, it's Belichick, but again, it's not like Belichick's 1 and Brady's 2. It's like 1A and 1B.
Don't tell Steeler fans they have a good coach and GM. They never believe you. Okay, so here's the next question. We'll do a little rapid fire. Who's Brady's go-to guy on third down this year with Gronk retired?
It's either going to be Philip Dorsett or James White, depending on the situation.
All right, I like that. Here is another question. Do you think that the Steelers and Patriots playing each other in Week 1 is an advantage for either team, basically because there's a lack of a new look defense or offense? There's no plays that are new. All plays are new, stuff like that.
You know what? Honestly, I don't think it's really an advantage for either team. I mean, both teams are so familiar with each other. I mean, we play every year, so it's not like, it's not this revolutionary changes going on in one place or the other. Now, maybe you can look at the Patriots and say there's some different things going on, offense or defense, but for the most part, I think both teams are pretty in tune with, with what's going on. Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe you can argue the Patriots because, Juju hasn't had time as the only number one without Antonio Brown there, and it's the first game without Antonio Brown. I don't know. I mean, maybe, I guess, but beyond that, I would say probably neither team, I would think.
Okay, here's a question from Darren.
Kind of a cop-out, sorry.
That's okay. How much does a post-Tom Brady era affect the Patriots in the future? He can only play for so long.
Yeah.
What's that look like?
Well, that they got to hit on the next quarterback, man. I don't know if Stidham is the next guy or not, but I think the big thing about the post-Brady era, they're already building a team, to prepare for that. I've written a few articles about this, but I feel like what they're doing now, where they're building a team that has a great defense and they're building a team that has a solid running game with a great offensive line. If you look back at the start of this dynasty, when Brady wasn't Brady, that's how they won, with great defense and a solid running game. And so they're trying to do the same thing here. They're trying to say, okay, if we can build a great running game and we can build a great defense, now we can win without Tom Brady at quarterback once he retires. And so will they be as successful? Obviously not. I mean, there's no chance they'll be as successful as they are, but they can at least be in the playoff hunt every year. And that's kind of all we're hoping for, is like at least, push for the playoffs around every year. I don't want to say the Dallas Cowboys because they suck, but like something around like the Cowboys where it's like, 8-8, 9-7, 10-6, something like that,
You also play in a powder puff division. So keep that in mind.
Now, wait a second. You play with the Browns and the Bengals, okay? Don't give me powder puff division.
Hey,
that's a point. He has a point there. And
the Bengals have at least been in the
Bengals
postseason.
Are terrible. They're terrible.
This year,
they're terrible every year. The Bengals. They might finish 9-7 or 10-6, but they stink every year, man.
I agree.
When it counts. Okay, the Bungles. Okay, here's a question. What do you think Pittsburgh will have to do to shut down Brady? Let's specify this a little bit more and say we all know that the interior pressure makes Brady very uncomfortable. What's another facet of a defense that can really give him some fits?
Well, I think the thing is that not just the interior pressure, but being able to get pressure with just 4 guys, and then you can drop 7 guys into coverage. That's how you beat Tom Brady. Obviously pressure at his feet, and up the middle obviously help. But the thing is that if you blitz guys and you're getting some pressure, but he can move around in the pocket, that doesn't really help you. You have to be able to rush with 4, get some pressure on him, and kind of flood the zones, almost play like a man/zone type of thing where you got 7 guys out there, you got all the zones covered, and you're getting pressure on them. That's what it makes it really difficult on them.
Okay. I just want to add one thing for Cree's question. You got to tackle well against the Pats.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
They're really good yards after the catch offense. You really got to tackle well. You got to make them earn every yard.
That's 100%, because if you let James White catch a screen pass out of the backfield and break 2 tackles and pick up 25 yards, you're going to screw yourself, man. You can't do that.
Okay, the Patriots fan base had a collective gasp when they saw Julian Edelman fall on his hand after coming back in a 4th preseason game. What's the status of his broken thumb? And I know that we're not going to hear anything from Belichick, but what are you hearing?
All I can say is what I've seen on the injury report, which is him not on the injury report, which means he was a full participant in practice all week this week. So to me, that means he's ready to go. Now, whether he'll, I think it's a bad sign for the future, because you look at it and it's like if you just fell on it and re-hurt it, that's not great. And so, we'll see what it looks like, as we move forward into the year. But right now he's healthy. If he takes one hit on that hand, maybe he won't be healthy, but right now he's as healthy as he's going to be.
Okay, I'm trying to find. We've got a lot of funny questions. I'm just not going to ask them.
I don't mind. I'll do with anything. I don't care.
No, it's okay. Let's hear. Okay, very good. I think we have a bunch of other stuff going on. But Lance, any questions for Pat before we call it a show or anything?
No, you're a fantastic guest. I mean, it's just weird. We're the same people, but we cheer for different teams.
Well, I always feel like I enjoy talking to people from other teams. I mean, I really enjoy it. And I maybe it comes from being a Patriots fan and not necessarily having to worry about other fans. But like for me, I don't get pissed at other fans. I'm like, hey, man, you're a fan of whoever you're a fan of. And that's, we can still talk football and whatever, and maybe we'll disagree about certain things. But, and I think maybe some of that comes from being a spoiled Patriots fan where it's like we win every year, so it doesn't really matter. I'm not like pissed at someone for cheering for another team, but I just feel like we're all football fans. So why can't we just, talk football? You know what I mean?
See, Jeff, that constant winning arrogance is rubbing off. I'm used to having it. I've had it for a majority of my life, so it's talking to another fan that has it. So
I have one question for you before we break here, and it is, last year the Steelers were living the label team turmoil, and that was when Le'Veon Bell held out the entire season, and Antonio Brown basically forced his hand and forced his way out, and it was just ugly. The Patriots haven't been choir boys. And yet the media has not touched on this hardly at all. I mean, whether you're talking about Mr. Rub and Tug down in Florida or whether you're talking about, Patrick Chung with the felony cocaine stuff, which I'm shocked the NFL hasn't stepped in and done anything with that yet, even though his court date's not till November. You have Lance Kent.
I think that's the rule, is that you can't they're not allowed to. I think the rule is, I guess.
Come on, Pat. The NFL makes its own rules. You know
you're
that.
right. You're right. That's
you
true.
guys went through Deflategate. You know they make their own rules.
Yeah, that's
okay.
True. Good
so,
point.
but then you have like Lance Kendricks is suspended. Ben Watson. That was very unfortunate. But he's like,
right.
What's going on up in New England? This seems very uncharacteristic.
Well, I think too. I mean, I'm actually surprised Lance Kendrick didn't get cut. He probably just didn't get cut only because he's Lance Kendrick. So it's like whatever. He's suspended for a week, and we'll just cut him after that. Or I guess like maybe week 1 if Matt Lacoste or Ryan Izzo were to go down, we have another guy. But Lance Kendrick's a no-name guy. I think Chung, people were in on that story right away. The thing about the Pat Chung situation that, we've heard different stories. Like, did he have a party and then he didn't show up the next day and then there was coke at his house? Or, like, was there coke at his house from him? Or no one knows the whole story. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's not a good look, okay?
We're justifying cocaine. And
no. I'm just saying maybe it wasn't his is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm not justifying that for anyone. I'm just saying if someone else brings it to his party and he doesn't know about it, what's he supposed to do?
I get it.
But it's one of those things. I don't know. You're right. But I do feel like, the Patriots are always under constant scrutiny about all different things. And you saw, the whole thing a few years ago about how, there was this going on and that going on, and Brady and Belichick hate each other and all this other stuff. And then you had the whole Deflategate ridiculousness.
Well, and it's just the TB12 stuff is shady.
You know what, though?
That's a shady business, man. That's shady business. Well,
again, the NFL has looked into that. They've gone through all the books. They've looked at all the numbers. They say everything's on the up and up. So, I don't know. Listen, Tom Brady's taking less money than any other quarterback that deserves it, right? So, maybe there is, but I don't know anything. So I'm not going to go conjecture about it and say, oh, well, they're definitely doing something wrong. It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe.
He's getting a kickback.
But, and look, I wouldn't be surprised if when he was done, he ends up as some sort of minority owner of the team or something like that. And so, he's part of the family basically at this point, and he had the whole Jimmy G trade, and everyone went on and on about how, people were, Belichick was forced to trade Jimmy G, which is just absolutely ridiculous. There's no way that happened. But there's just all that stuff. And people are always talking about the Patriots. And so, right now, maybe they're not doing it as much, but they always are talking about the Patriots. You look at Antonio Brown's just one of those guys, man. Look what he did all summer in Oakland. He's still doing it. He got the fine for not showing up to practice, and he's all pissed about. It's like, that's in your contract, buddy. Like, you didn't show up. What do you want me to say? Like, it's just the way it goes. But he just draws it, And the Patriots they don't talk. Like, that's the big thing about the Patriots. They don't talk about things, and because they're not talking about things, that's mainly the reason why it doesn't get out there, because their players aren't talking about it.
Yeah. Lance, anything to add?
It just goes to what my brother always says: "In Bill, I trust." That cleans up everything.
Yep,
a little bit of Coca-Cola at the party, and Bill, I trust.
All right, well, Pat, we appreciate you coming on. Why don't you give us a what you guys are doing over at Pat's Pulpit? Podcast form. What you do? I don't know if are you a writer for the website as well?
I do. I'm part-time writer. I'm working on something right now. I try to get 1 or 2 pieces out a week. I usually have a game review piece, and then I have another piece or 2 during the week. So I kind of have a little passion project I'm working on as far as writing that should come out in the next day or 2. And then we do a podcast, and our podcast comes out on Friday. But then we have podcasts basically coming out every day. We have the Pat's Pulpit podcast that comes out once or twice a week, the SCO Show podcast, which comes out once or twice a week, and then our podcast, the Patriot Nation podcast, which comes out on Fridays. And so we're just trying to do big things. We had, as a matter of fact, our guest from last week was on the Today Show yesterday, which is pretty cool. So Ryan O'Callahan was on talking about his book, and he was on the Today Show yesterday morning. So it was pretty cool. So we've had some interesting guests, and we try to do is we try to be knowledgeable and be informative, but also be fun. It seems like a lot of like what's going on here, where it's like, we're not idiots spouting off about the game, not knowing what we're talking about, but we're also not just sitting there like, well, we think this week we're going to see something. It's like, let's make it a little more interesting and a little more entertaining,
Absolutely, man. You got to make it fun. It's fans. We're fans. Exactly. That's what I always tell on our shows. Exactly. We're not talking heads. We're not being paid by an organization to say certain things. It's a fan perspective. Well, we appreciate you coming on to our show tonight. We appreciate maybe maybe we'll have another conversation down the road.
Hey, man, I'd love to come on. Listen, if people want to, I mean, I know your people are Steelers fans, but if you want to follow, it's at @plane_Pats. So if you want to, if you want to get in on the Twitter fun, I'm a big Marvel head too. As a matter of fact, I'm about to record a Marvel podcast right now too. So I'm a Marvel guy. I love movies and talking all sorts of different stuff. So.
See, Jeff is smiling because I don't know. Jeff never saw any Marvel movie.
Never have. No.
Man. He has no knowledge of
I
the
don't have time for that, Lance. You know this, man.
Yeah,
I've got 5 kids working 2 jobs. Give me a break,
bro. So. Yeah. See, I got 3 kids at home too, but it's my escape. I'm like, I gotta get out of the house. So
this is my escape, I guess. I need a new escape.
Yeah. Well, you can listen 23 movies. You might, get Disney Plus. You can binge them at home.
I'll think about it. All right, Pat. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it, buddy. Take it easy.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right. So we appreciate Pat for joining us. Lance, there you have it, man. The predictions are in. I thought that was some really good information from him. We appreciate him stopping on.
Great guest, funny guy, really informative. I'm sure Patriot fans love it.
And absolutely, I hope that people that are listening know that we're going to try to do this almost every single week, is to try to find someone from the other SB Nation Vox Media podcast, which, by the way, all 32 NFL teams have their own podcasts. So make sure if you're interested in the other side of the fence, you can check out their podcast as well. So just to give you a rundown, because this is our first regular season week, so tonight was obviously the standard is the standard. You can go back and check our Max Starks interview, which happened earlier today. And then tomorrow we have the Steelers preview with myself, Brian, and Dave. Friday, are you doing your I Said It, or is that going to be Saturday? Do you know, Lance?
I said, I don't know. So
here's what you have to do. Here's what you have to do. No, if you're watching live on YouTube, you need to subscribe, because if you subscribe to our channel, you'll get a push button notification every single time we go live. So you'll never miss a chance to be in this unbelievable community of people here in our live chat, which is awesome. We appreciate all the people that communicated with us tonight. And if you're checking us on podcast form, anywhere you get your podcast, just search Steelers Behind the Steel Curtain. That's where you'll find us. Subscribe so you don't miss a thing. 7 shows a week, people. Goodness gracious. It's a Steelers heaven. Lance, why don't you send us out?
Tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button.
Thanks for all the hard work and the back end work tonight, Lance, getting Max Starks on. We appreciate it. And we will see you next week for another episode of The Standard is the Standard with the Steelers 1-0. Bye.